Muy buenos dias. Good morning. I hope you are doing well, staying focused on what you can control. My name is Patricia Mota, and I serve as President and CEO of HACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, national nonprofit whose mission is to positively impact workplaces by cultivating the pipeline of Latinx talent, providing our community the insight, access, and support to be successful in their careers. And if this is your first time, welcome to the ACE Familia. Welcome to Cafecito con ACE. And please join us on April 20th and 21st for ACE's National Leadership Summit and Gala Celebration in Chicago. Also hybrid, so if you want to join us virtually for the summit portion, please join us. See more information dropped in the comment section and also on aceonline.org. We are in for a great conversation this morning with our dear friend and dear partner, Josephine Martinez, who is the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, People and Culture at the NFL. Yes, we are reporting to you live from Phoenix, where we are celebrating Super Bowl 57 week. ¿Verdad que sí, Josephine? Buenos días.
Buenos dias, Patricia. Thank you for having me. It's a busy week, but this is an important conversation and dialogue.
It is an important conversation, Josephine. You have been quite busy, and I just know with what we've been working on for the ASA event that we just had, which we'll share more with our audience here tuning in. But please tell us, Josephine, because this is Cafecito con ACE, about your morning beverage of choice. How do you like it prepared? And do you have your cafecito now?
I have my cafecito now. Sadly, this is not what I would have in a normal morning. So I went around the corner here to press and I asked them for a latte. And I said, can I have an extra shot of espresso? The gentleman said, our lattes are made with 2 shots of espresso. So are you saying you want 3? And I said, yes, sir, I want 3. So my morning cafecito is I have my greca at home. I have my bustelo. Yes, every morning. And when I can't make it, I live in the Bronx. So I go to a little spot called Sabor de Punto. And they make me my café con leche sin azúcar. I don't have sugar in my coffee, but every morning café con leche sin azúcar, and sometimes I get my pan con mantequilla, and that's how I start my day. So super Dominican, but that's where we are. It's a nice feeling of home. But this I'm kind of doing it, but I needed 3 shots to get my little 1 taza de bustelo that I have in the morning.
Wow. So let's see everybody who shares with Josephine's taste in terms of the cafe.
Oh my goodness, sorry, there's so many comments on just how I take my coffee.
I know we got a lot of Bustelo fans out there that they gotta have the Bustelo. And of course our Dominican community, right? They also are fans of the Bustelo. That's awesome.
Will say, I've even gone as far as on Easter. I've received Bustelo Easter baskets in the past. So I'm a really big fan, and I will keep them in business for life.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, so Josephine, you mentioned the comments. Those of you joining us, we want to hear from you too. Tell us about your morning beverage of choice, how you like your cafecito prepared. And if this is your first cafecito con ACE, welcome. We've got Josephine, who is she says you live in the Bronx, or you're from the Bronx. Is that what you said? Because I know we got a lot of folks.
I'm uptown Washington Heights, moved to the Bronx, moved like 20 whole blocks away. So anyway, neither here nor there.
You also are one of Negocios Now, which is one of our good partners, 40 Under 40 of New York. So kudos to you for that recognition. And I have to say, partnering with you on ACE's first ever, I don't know, appearance or event at the Super Bowl week
birth to something.
It was because of Josephine, this lady right here. But we'll talk more about that. But before we do, Josephine, tell us more about your background. How did you get your professional, your cultural background? How did you get to your role today, which is such a powerful role? And I know that a lot of folks, are always reaching out to you to get more involved with the NFL and to hear from what you've got going on.
Yeah, I would say it's been a wild journey. I was somebody who grew up watching sports, always grew up watching baseball, Dominican household. Was a football fan growing up as well. I would say my brothers always watched the Giants, but always said, I think I want to kind of work in sports. I didn't know if that was going to be as a journalist. I didn't know if that was going to be, on the front office side, that sort of thing. But it's really been a kind of a dream come true for me. Just every day waking up and knowing we're doing the work. And I mean, I won't take you too long through my career journey, but I think pretty early in my career, I realized that people were the most important part of the organization. And that was where my passions lie. And this was way before diversity, equity, and inclusion was really, I would say the phenomenon that it is now, or the basis that it is now, and have always had a really strong, a really strong need to give back to people like myself. I was the benefactor of many opportunity programs. So whether that was TRIO programs, Upward Bound, Talent Search in high school, whether that was EOP programs in college, et cetera, I've always been the benefactor of many opportunity programs that have existed in this country since the 60s. So really, an honor and a pleasure to be able to do some of this work every day. And I will say, HACE has been a wonderful partner to the NFL. It really feels like we've given birth to something special. I was speaking to my boss yesterday, our chief diversity officer, who is just so excited about this partnership, so excited about the folks that we're in the room with. And, it's not just about having these conversations, but it's also lifting as you climb, right? So how many other people can you bring along with you? I am proud to say I saw one of my mentees yesterday at another Super Bowl event, Dominicana de Queens, who, she's still in college, but she's been hustling, interning different places. And it's all about lifting as you climb, and, even sending her resume out to different summer, helping her get an internship, which she killed. And then she was invited to come to Super Bowl with that group. So
that's amazing. Well, let's talk more about that event yesterday. You mentioned Jonathan Bean, who's the chief diversity officer. I had an opportunity to speak with quite a bit yesterday at this event. Who speaks volumes of you, Josephine? You're like the executor. He's like, get things done, right? That was one of many great things that he had to say about you. So shout out to Jonathan, and also for the partnership. Yesterday, for those of you tuning in, if you did not get to catch it, I know it's on our social media channels, recorded and saved. HACE, we kicked off our annual executive leadership tour at Super Bowl 57, at the Super Bowl Experience Week, right? And that's because of our partnership with the NFL. And the executive leadership tour is to showcase Latino executive leaders, to share their stories and their career trajectory. And it's always tied to a theme. So this year, our theme is HACE United, accelerating equity with action and accountability. So Josephine, tell us more about your experience with this event. What was like some of the things you were hearing from your colleagues, and not just your colleagues, but when it talks, you had a lot of the teams that were there represented as well.
Yes. I will say, there is so much leading with action, so much going on in this space, right? And we are super excited. We're super excited to have what felt like a good conversation and a needed conversation, just table stakes conversation, to be honest, right? So us thinking a little bit about where is every organization, whether that's Telemundo, whether that's the NFL. We had a minority owner of the Houston Texans who is Latino in the house, which, there aren't many Latino owners of an NFL team, but it is really important for folks to see representation matters. And we actually do have these people with our organization. We always think of the NFL owner maybe being Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft, but we have a host of folks who are owners of NFL teams, and really hearing where every organization has been on their diversity, equity, and inclusion journey, right? I think it's super important. As you said, I am the executor. I'm the person who, people don't see me. I hide 360 days a year, and I know that is super cultural, to be honest, right? You put your head down, you do your work. But it is really great to take a step back at some moments and really say, it feels like we're giving birth to something, this partnership. Our partners at all of the clubs, I know we're super excited just to think about how can we get more involved with us in our local cities. I was so excited to hear the Chicago Bears actually have something coming up with us in Chicago. So we are all here for continuing the dialogue and conversation, and those dialogues and conversations don't just need to happen at that executive level. And I think that's
absolutely
piece that we can also walk away from and say, how do we continue to push this down within organizations so that we live it, we breathe it, we feel it, right? So whether that's ERGs, BRGs, I believe Cristina spoke a little bit about the culture nodes that she has with her in her organization, which I took that nugget away. I said, I've done that at previous organizations. That's actually really great. So lots of work to obviously do. But I think, at the end of the day, and this is why Phoenix and Arizona, honestly, when we knew we were coming to Arizona, we said we have to show up for the Latino community, because we know what a community and powerhouse it is in Arizona, right? And it's time for us to really look at the strength in numbers. When you look at the students graduating from college each year, you look at folks going into the workforce each year, there is no reason not to, have opportunities available to folks within these corporate spaces, which is what HACE is all about. So we are here alive and well and really, looking to break through and make inroads for folks.
Absolutely. And I love that you said, right, because we had a multi-generational audience, right? And after the event, the panel discussion that we had with, with Cristina, with Javier and Marisa, all leaders in their own right, we had a reception. And I got to meet some folks that said that was their first networking event. And I'm not going to call them out, but that they felt so welcome and they felt like people were giving them tips and they were able to make some great connections. But it also had me thinking, you have a generation of folks that started working, right, perhaps during the pandemic, entered the workforce and never really attended these type of events. But I was like, well, how lucky of you to be able to attend this, right, where we had such a great group, a great conversation, and folks that really genuinely care about pushing and pulling, right? Just to your point earlier. And you talked about your mentee being there. What was one of your highlights?
I got to see her for literally half a second. She is working with an organization called RISE, which is a racial equity organization that works on just racial equity within sports. But just to even see her working the room and, helping them set up, et cetera, for some of their conversations that they had yesterday in terms of how you bring the social justice paradigm to sports and entertainment has been absolutely wonderful. So just a convening of really great spaces here in Arizona, but also just to see that we are in the room, right? I think that every time we walk into these spaces, sometimes it feels like, where are the Latinos? Are there any Latinos, et cetera? And it's just, it's really reaffirming to know we are here. And also, as you said, to brainstorm, share best practices, et cetera. There's nothing like the power of that connection one-on-one, and also to know where other organizations are on their journey, right?
Absolutely.
What we all be doing collectively.
Yeah, so we'll take any questions. If you have any questions or comments, we've got some time. For those of you that are tuning in on our LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook channels, we have some time to hear from you. And so we've got Deborah Ruiz who's asking, what is your educational background, your degrees, your schools?
Hi, Deborah. Nice to meet you. So my educational background, I went to Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York, super small college, which is super small liberal arts college, which I tell people all the time. It does not matter if you go to the biggest school or the biggest name school. What does matter is the education that you get, the things that you study, and that you have an interest in it. So I was fortunate enough to have that liberal arts education that taught me critical thinking skills by the Jesuits. And then I went to Cornell for my master's degree in industrial labor relations, because by that time I'd realized that people are my passion. And I went and got a very professional degree in terms of how you look at labor markets, how you look at people within an organization, organizational psychology, et cetera. So grad school is an investment. It's a huge investment. I understand that there's, a huge privilege in even being able to say, hey, let me, choose to go to grad school. I almost went to law school and I saw the loans. I said, whoo, there's a lot. If I wanted to do employment law, I still knew I wanted to work with people in some way, right? So I understand the privilege with that, but with that also comes the area of specialization and just the ability to really hone into what you're doing professionally and to augment that with grad school was absolutely amazing. So I would say to anyone, if you kind of have an inkling on what you want to do and you're able to study it further, 100% do it. And Monica, we didn't even speak about Monica
Yeah.
Nobles yesterday, but she mentioned she's our keynote speaker. So if you guys can rewatch this replay, I would say definitely do so. But she mentioned less than 1% of Latinas have their PhD, and she's actually a PhD student right now. So, I mean, more power and palante all the time. But when Monica said that, it gave me chills because it really just was super impactful.
Yeah, and we'll take another question. Before we jump into this one, I want to add on what you just said. So Monica is the CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So she shared some remarks about the 1%, right, of Latinas and PhDs. But you also talked about like programs like Upward Bound, Trio, which I am also a recipient
Hey,
of, like Upward Bound. See,
hey.
and that's the equity piece. Like, what are the programs, resources that are offered for underrepresented, underserved communities to help, get access, resources, mentors, right? And there's also some for PhD, for graduate programs. Like, I know there's a PhD project out there that they are trying to get more Black and Browns to earn their doctorate. So there's and I know you talked about, right, because it is expensive. So we want to be able to have like resources out there. So I know we had another question popping up, and I don't know if we lost it. Oh, here we go, from Stephanie.
Yes.
Have you faced adversity working in the NFL as a Latina, a woman, right? And if so, how do you navigate it?
I would
Great question.
say, the NFL has come a very long way. So I first walked through the doors 13 years ago as a very junior person straight out of college working for the NFL. And it was not always the most friendly of places, I would say, for women in general. I think maybe 25% of our workforce at the time were women. And when you speak about Latinas, there really weren't very many. But in creating kind of these spaces, when we look at I am so proud of where we are as an organization right now, just in terms of our offices and what our representation looks like between women. In some of our offices, women outnumber men, which people are very surprised to learn. And we have like it's a strong girl gang, if I'm being honest. And then in terms of Latinas as well, we know we have a long way to go, but we also, have done a really great job of bringing in strong talent, folks like Marisa Solis, who is amazing, who was an NFL partner at Pepsi for years and years and came over to our organization. And just, having some of those folks within our direct line and being able to look up and see them really in the C-suite, honestly, has been quite spectacular. So we know we have a ways to go. We are never saying that. We know which pockets of the organization we have to get some more representation in. But as I said, it's all about lifting as we climb. And honestly, this generation, this Gen Z generation, as well as the Gen Alpha generation, if you just look at the numbers of how multicultural they are, how diverse they are, all that they bring to the table when they show up, and also taking up space in a way that I know for myself 13 years ago, we were told not to do by some of these programs that we went through in high school, college. Taking up space and really being comfortable in those spaces. I think it has shifted so much of just the culture of any workplace, right? And it's fantastic to see. So, I would say adversity lately, not as much. You can really bring your full authentic co-self to work, but you also have to play within the paradigms of, okay, I know I have a budget I have to stick to, which everyone has to stick to. These are maybe the adversity challenges that we have, just in terms of, I know Marisa spoke a lot about yesterday, and Javier as well, revenue and what does that mean, and how does every decision that you make really refer back to the business. So there are those pieces of it, but in terms of bringing your full self to work, I will also say, my counterpart way back early in my career, which I thought was the easiest way to do this, if you would, but I found another Latina in the office who was my same age. She actually did Mujeres de HACE a few years ago through the NFL as well. But we were counterparts, could brainstorm, and just having that psychological safety at work to have a best friend at work and say, hey, this is what we do. She's now at Disney, so shout out to Kathy. It was her birthday yesterday, but that is also so impactful.
Happy belated birthday, Kathy. Thank you, Josephine. Amazing nuggets for everyone to take in. And a lot of also things that we heard, right, in terms of how are you focusing on how you add value to the organization, finding your support network, whether it's another individual or someone that you can really be able to have those safe conversations, right, and feel that you have that support within your organization is so critical. Our time is coming to an end here. If you all are tuning in, you still have questions, you still want to engage with Josephine, please continue to comment on these social media channels because we'll have access. Continue to network. If this is your first time with Cafecito con Ace, let us know who you are. If you're looking for any resources, and please plan on joining us for Ace's National Leadership Summit, April 20th and 21st. Josephine, my last question for you
Sure.
before we wrap it up is what are you most hopeful for this year?
Most hopeful for just keep pushing forward. And really, we are a strong and mighty team, but continuing to have partners who are alongside us and really helping us, build what we're trying to build in terms of the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. I just want to say, Jesus, hit me up on LinkedIn. I see a lot of your questions. I can answer them. But I think Jesus and also Paulina both had questions about breaking into the sports industry. Tell anyone and everyone that you know that you want to break into the sports industry. The first person that I actually met was an intern when I was in college. She was also in college, and I learned she had just interned at MLB. And I said to her, "How'd you do that? I've always wanted to do that." And she kind of helped me through the process. But there is, applying online is always really helpful. I know all the jobs are out there. I won't lie; it does help to know some people as well. So feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I look forward to being in touch.
It sounds like you're most hopeful for getting more Latinos in the sports industry.
Yes, yes.
There you go. Reach out to Josephine. Stay connected. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just, everyone have a wonderful week. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We are so excited for the teams that are playing in the Super Bowl, for the Chiefs and the Eagles, even though I'm a Giants fan and a little crestfallen, but it's okay. I'll get over it. But Sunday should be wonderful, and enjoy the halftime show. I hear it's going to really be special. And also, I will say the NFL has a really special spot running in the Super Bowl this year that has a pretty prominent Latina featured in it. So I'll give that little nugget and just say, tune into the
Stay
game on
tuned.
Sunday.
Stay
Stay
tuned.
tuned.
We had Melinda said Together We Rise, Melinda, our program's director. Those, everybody, thank you for joining us. Continue to engage with Josephine on I think you said LinkedIn, right? We've got some questions. We'll continue to engage and we'll be in touch. Y hasta la próxima. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.